This person said it was an exaggeration, that everything was your own invention, that you complicated things too much, that you made a big deal out of nothing. But it was you who felt it. It was you who slept restlessly. It was you who noticed the pauses in the middle of sentences. It was you who heard the silence smothering the truth you already knew. Before it turned into a crisis, it was already a symptom. Before the distance, it was already a cut. Before the fall, it was already a tilt. But this person laughed, pretended to be carefree, pointed a finger at you, as if feeling were a weakness, as if predicting were pessimism, as if perceiving were a mistake. And now they live what you tried to avoid. Now they suffer what you tried to warn them about. Now they understand too late. Because it wasn't drama, it was insight. It was a sign. It was that feeling deep in your chest that no one else can explain. Only you. This person didn't want to listen, but you didn't need their approval. Everything was already so clear within you. The truth is, you just wanted to be taken seriously. Not to be right, but so you wouldn't have to carry it all alone. Have you ever been discredited like that? Comment, I saw it all before, because there's something that no one talks about. But you know, this person only started to listen to you when everything crumbled, when it was no longer possible to deny, when the cost of denial knocked at the door, and still, the blame fell on you. Have you ever felt that? This person said, with all their might, with that tone that mixes disdain and sarcasm, you're seeing things that aren't there. You've always been like this, too sensitive. Stop creating problems. And you remained silent. On the surface, it seemed like you agreed. Maybe you even laughed, tried to keep it light, but inside you knew it was serious, that it wasn't made up, that it wasn't an exaggeration. Because you noticed before, felt it before, knew it before. You can't explain it. There's no linear logic. But there's something in the way the body feels. There's something about the way the atmosphere shifts, even when the words remain sweet. That person didn't notice, but you did. You saw it in the way their eyes didn't look the same anymore, in the hug that lacked presence, in the delayed responses to simple messages, in the rush to wrap up a conversation that used to feel endless. You notice, even when you don't want to. It's a radar that doesn't turn off, a kind of curse and blessing at the same time. That person said it was just drama, but deep down, you were simply seeing what no one else wanted to confront. You've experienced this, haven't you? They called you difficult, problematic, excessive. They placed you in a position of instability, as if the fault were yours. But look now, look at what's left. Look at what's been confirmed. Everything, just as you warned, in the rhythm you feared, with the reactions you had already predicted. But that person never gave you credit, because acknowledging that now would mean admitting you were right all along. And not everyone has the courage to do that. You warned them, you tried to talk it out, you attempted to show them gently, you tried to leave quietly. And in that you were called cold, ungrateful, inconsistent, but you were only reacting to what you already felt. You were just protecting your clarity, because staying would be dishonest. That person laughed, called you confused, made jokes about your words, reduced everything to mere dramatization. But you remember the night you lay down and felt that something had died between you. You remember the moment you heard their voice and knew that something had changed. You remember the time you sent that last message and something within you begged, don't insist anymore. That person didn't notice because they didn't feel in their body what you felt, because they don't share your perception, because they live with their eyes closed and accuse others of being too open-eyed, you know. The sensitivity you carry is not light, it's not pretty, it's not romantic. It tires, it burns, it weighs you down, because along with sensitivity comes the loneliness of feeling first. It brings the pain of carrying what no one else sees. It brings the frustration of trying to warn and being ignored. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever tried to alert someone about a dangerous path and they called you negative? Have you ever felt that something was going to go wrong, even with everyone smiling around you and they told you to relax? Have you ever been sidelined for being too honest, too perceptive, too intense? Comment, I knew and no one listened to me. Is there anything that hurts more than watching everything unfold just as you predicted? It hurts to realize that you were silenced. It hurts to understand that your voice only matters after the damage is done. It hurts to know that this person today suffers for not having listened to you, but doesn't have the courage to admit it. And what do? They try to move on, as if nothing had happened, as if it were just a coincidence, as if everything were inevitable. But you know it wasn't. It was ignored. You feel things in your body. You sense in the field. You feel before it takes shape. This person didn't feel. This person lived by logic, by data, by facts. But you live by the truth before it becomes visible. And this is your curse. Because knowing first doesn't prevent the end. It only anticipates the pain. You knew it would end. You knew it would break. You knew it would betray, drive away, give up, pretend. You knew, but you swallowed it down. Out of fear of looking crazy, out of fear of confirming that once again you were right and no one wanted to accept it. This person said you were dramatizing, but you just saw beyond. Not to show power, not to control. You just wanted to care, you just wanted to be heard. You just wanted to share the weight of perception. But you had to carry it alone, as always. Some people have the gift of perception and the burden of being discredited, and you are one of those people. And maybe you're reading this right now, not by chance. Maybe because today you're seeing another similar situation. Again, another cycle, another person, another denial. And you once again have already noticed it before. Does this make sense to you so far? Write yes down below. Do you know what else is frustrating? It's that this person can still reach out to you. They can still use you as a crutch. They can still try to turn everything around, as if the problem has always been you, and even so you will understand. Because those who recognize also forgive. Those who see also feel inside what the other hasn't had the courage to face outside. You carry that code, that clarity, that restlessness, and unfortunately, that loneliness. But you are not alone. There are more people like you, who see ahead, who feel beyond, who remain silent to avoid scaring those who only understand the world when it crumbles. This person used to say you were being dramatic, but today, they live with the consequences of what you tried to avoid. Do you still want to be heard? Or have you already realized that some truths don't fit into someone who refuses to perceive? This person said you were being dramatic, but you weren't being dramatic. You just weren't pretending everything was fine. Your pain was real. Your perception was clear. Your intuition was too sharp to be ignored. And that's why it bothered them. Because those who live in denial are always bothered by those who see the truth, by those who hear what was unspoken, by those who feel what no one else had the courage to touch. This person preferred to say you saw too much, but they never stopped to ask themselves, why do you think you see so much? Because you needed to, because you learned early on, because you've been fooled enough to develop a radar that doesn't fail. And today, that protects you, but it also isolates you. You perceive, but you can't explain. Because everything you feel is before the words, before the reasoning, before the logic that others demand. And when you try to put it into words, this person laughs, this person belittles, this person calls it drama. But those who feel like you are not exaggerating. They are fighting to exist in a world that doesn't recognize depth. This person said you were complicating things, but it was them who was hiding. It was her who didn't want to deal with it. It was her who deep down knew you were right, but didn't have the courage to face what you were pointing out. And that's why they call it an exaggeration, because it's easier to invalidate you than to confront the truth you represent. You've felt this with more than one person, haven't you? At work, in the family, in friendships, in relationships, you notice what no one else talks about, and you try to respect it. You try not to intrude, you try not to smother, but there comes a time when the truth beats too strongly, and you need to speak, you need to show, you need to let it out. Even knowing it will hurt, even knowing that this person will use everything against you later, and yet you keep feeling, you keep seeing, you keep living between clarity and silence. This person didn't know what you carried inside. They didn't know about the sleepless nights, about the thoughts that haunted you, about the alerts that came in the form of feelings that no one around could perceive. This person didn't listen, and now they are living the collapse you tried to avoid. You tried to protect, and you were accused. You tried to anticipate, and you were punished. And now you carry this invisible scar, the pain of having been right, when all you wanted was to be wrong. Comment, I knew, but they silenced me. Isn't it how it goes? You try to step back. They try to blame you. You try to be honest. They call you cruel. You try to warn, and they say you're negative. But what you carry isn't pessimism. It's clarity. And clarity scares those who still prefer to live in illusions. This person who ignored you now feels the absence they caused. Today they see everything crumbling where you had already pointed out the cracks. But they won't seek you out to apologize. They won't acknowledge it. They won't say, "You were right." And it's not out of malice, it's out of cowardice, because admitting what you knew would mean acknowledging how much this person preferred to run away instead of feeling. You know what hurts the most? Even after everything, you still feel for her. You still care. You still wish she would notice. Not for you, but for herself. You don't want to be right. You want people to free themselves from what consumes them. You want them to see. You want them to take care of themselves. You want them to wake up. But not everyone wants to awaken. Some prefer to sleep until the ground crumbles beneath them. And you're left with that knowledge stuck in your chest. Have you ever carried this alone? Have you cried watching someone head straight for the abyss, knowing you could do nothing? Have you ever tried to save someone from themselves and got pushed out of their life? Have you noticed so much in that you wished you could unsee it, but you can't? Because that's who you are. You can't erase it. You can't pretend. You can't be neutral. You feel. End of story. That person said you were being dramatic, but you could just see beyond. And everything has come to pass, line by line, exactly as you felt. And yet they put you in the wrong, too sensitive, too hard to handle. But look at me now, and feel this truth without running away. You were not too much. Others were just not enough. If this still resonates with you, comment, "I feel first and I pay the price for it." And it doesn't stop here. Because now comes what few have the courage to hear. You can't be silent any longer. Not out of anger, not for revenge, but out of loyalty to your own clarity. Your perception is your way of loving. Your sensitivity is your truth sensor. And whoever wants to walk alongside you will have to learn to listen. That person said you were being dramatic. Today they live with the echo of what you tried to prevent. And you stand strong, with a marked chest, with your eyes still open, with your heart still willing to feel. Even if it hurts, even if they leave you. That person said you were being dramatic. Today they feel the absence of everything they pretended they didn't need, but they don't speak. They don't acknowledge it. They won't back down. Because the one who mocked your perception now feels ashamed to look you in the eye. Because looking at you means being reminded of how they preferred illusion, of how they chose the easier and more destructive end path. You are the presence that exposes, the existence that disturbs, the living reminder of a truth that was ignored. And even without saying a word, you continue to say everything. You tried to silence yourself. You tried to do what this person expected, to be easygoing, to be chill, to be detached. But the truth is, that was never you. Because you feel, you investigate, you dive into places where no one else wants to go. You listen to the details. You pick up on what lies behind the smile. You notice the tone, the pause, the subtext. You always knew where everything was headed. This person laughed, but inside, they already knew you were right. Maybe that's why they pulled away, because they could no longer pretend in your presence. Because near you the facade crumbles, the mask slips, the deception trembles. You are the mirror that reveals the cracks. This person said you were being dramatic, but you just refused to live a lie. You just couldn't stand pretending everything was fine. You weren't born to keep up appearances. You were born to awaken realities, and those who live for appearances hate you for that. Have you ever distanced yourself from someone who wouldn't listen to you? Have you ever silenced your intuition to try to fit in? Have you ever swallowed obvious signs just to avoid being the complicated one in the story? How many times did you notice and still stayed, and then blamed yourself? Blamed yourself for not leaving when you already knew everything was falling apart? That guilt also lives in you, doesn't it? But you need to know, you did not fail. You just felt too much. You just perceived too much. You just loved too much. And that person didn't know what to do with so much. They didn't know how to receive. They didn't know how to sustain. They didn't know how to face someone who saw what they were hiding from themselves. You didn't lose for being intense. This person is the one who lost, because they didn't have the capacity to embrace you. There's something no one has told you. Every time you perceive things earlier, you also suffer earlier. While this person is still laughing, you're already crying. While this person is still pretending everything is fine, you're already mourning what's about to end. You go through an invisible grief, a secret grief, a lonely grief, and you're still called dramatic. Have you ever buried relationships that were still alive to everyone else, except for you? Have you ever felt the end, even when they still said they were happy? Do you know what it's like to live with this unnamed sensitivity? If you do, right here, I feel before everyone else. This person claimed you were dramatizing, but you could only see the truth that no one else had the courage to acknowledge, and now they're paying the price for their own denial, suffering what you tried to prevent, sinking in what you tried to hold on to. And you just observe, with a silent heart, with a hardened soul, with the same radar pulsing, just as it always has. This person may never come back. They may never recognize, they may never understand who you truly are, but that doesn't change what you carry. You are sensitive, you are profound, you are vision, and anyone who can't handle that will continue to reject you, will continue to try to mold you, will continue to try to silence you. But now you know you will no longer apologize for perceiving. Do you also feel like you've spent your entire life justifying your sensitivity? Have you tried to adapt to shallow people and ended up drowning inside? Have you grown tired of being the first to understand everything and the last to be heard? Have you ever felt so much truth that you started to doubt yourself? Comment, I'm tired of being silent. And now, there's this emptiness. This gap between what you perceive and what people are ready to see. But I tell you, don't look back. Don't close your eyes. Don't harden your heart. Those who perceive too much sometimes think that loving less will be easier. But it's not. You were born with this sensitivity. It is who you are. It is your protection. It is your antenna. It is your inner fire. Don't try to extinguish it. That person said you were being dramatic, but you were only seeing what they didn't have the maturity to handle, and everything happened exactly as you felt. If this resonated with you, share it, comment on the topic, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel.